Dehydrated celery is so easy to do, and it makes it so easy later on to add it to my soups and maybe even my casseroles. The soup is probably my favorite because it absorbs that broth and it makes it taste so good, but it adds that celery taste to the soup itself. I begin by cutting my celery down to 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch pieces. This just makes it so that it dries a little bit faster and it's kind of that perfect size for having in a soup later. When I cut my celery, I really like to have it all held together because, well, it's just so much faster than cutting them one at a time. I then load up my dehydrator, and I don't want to make it too thick or it'll take a long time to dehydrate. About, a single to maybe a double thickness. If you have it a single thickness, it'll dehydrate a lot faster, but either way, it'll get done. I did want to point out that I actually keep all of the leaves of my celery because I'll be using those to make celery salt later, and you can look at that video if you're interested. Now I'll place my celery in the dehydrator at 125 degrees for anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. It all depends on how thick it is, what your humidity is in your area, your dehydrator. There's so many different factors. The key though is to check them and make sure that they're completely dry. My celery is completely dry at this point, and my preferred way to deal with it is actually put it right into a bowl. Because if I try putting it into the jars from the tray, I'll run into issues with it falling through the tray. These get a lot smaller once they've been dehydrated, so you may want to consider putting either a silicone mat or a tray that has smaller holes. So I just knock off all of the celery into my large bowl, which is a much easier way to collect it than trying to put it right into a jar from here. So now it is so much easier to just feed it from this bowl into my jar funnel, and then of course into my mason jar. It can really go into any kind of container as long as it's airtight. You do want to make sure that you allow the celery to cool down before you put it in a jar. Mine's fully cold at this point, so I don't have to worry about it. And incredibly enough, out of 8 trays that were overflowing with fresh celery, it gives me just 1 quart and a half of dehydrated celery. So definitely a space-saving technique. Now I'll put lids on these and label them, and they should be good for anywhere from 6 months to 1 year. They're perfect for either rehydrating and putting in casseroles or just throwing directly into a soup.